The shovel hit something that wasn't dirt. My grandson Marcus stopped digging. We were just planting tulip bulbs for spring. A simple Sunday afternoon project. He brushed away the soil with his hands. I saw his face change. The color literally drained from his skin. "Grandma, don't come any closer." But I was already walking toward him. That's when I saw it. A metal box, about the size of a briefcase. And it wasn't old. The lock was new. Shiny. Marcus looked up at me, and I'll never forget what he said. "This was buried last week. The soil disturbance is fresh. And, Grandma..." He pointed to something scratched into the metal, my initials, and a date. November 15th. That was 10 days away. My name is Dorothy Walsh. I'm 67 years old. And that metal box in my garden contained evidence that my own children were planning something unthinkable. What we found inside would expose a conspiracy so calculated, so heartless, that even the detective who'd worked elder abuse cases for 20 years said she'd never seen anything like it. By the end of this story, you'll understand why I had to change my locks, my will, and cut my own children out of my life forever. But more importantly, you'll learn the warning signs I missed, the red flags that could save your life or the life of someone you love. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Let me back up 6 months. My husband Robert died 4 years ago. Lung cancer. 2 months from diagnosis to goodbye. We'd been married 43 years. After he passed, my children became attentive. More attentive than they'd been in years. Susan, my daughter, 44 years old. Real estate agent, divorced twice. Always struggled with money, but too proud to ask for help. And David, my son, 42, financial advisor, married to Jennifer. 2 kids in private school. Big house in Westchester he couldn't quite afford. They started visiting every weekend, calling daily. So concerned about my well-being. "Mom, this house is too big for you alone." "Mom, you should think about your future." "Mom, we just want what's best for you." I thought grief had made them realize how precious time was. I was wrong. What they realized was how much I was worth. The house, paid off, worth $850,000 in this market. Life insurance payout, $500,000. Robert's pension, $4,000 a month. Savings and investments, another $1.1 million. We'd lived frugally, saved carefully. Robert wanted to make sure I'd be secure. He never imagined that security would paint a target on my back. The weekend visits became inventory sessions. David would walk through rooms, mentally cataloging furniture, asking about antiques. Susan started suggesting I downsize, move somewhere more manageable, always with brochures for senior communities, where she just happened to know the directors. They tag-teamed me with concerns about my safety, my health, my ability to maintain such a large property. But their eyes always drifted to the china cabinet Robert's mother left me, the paintings we'd collected over 40 years, the grandfather clock worth more than most people's cars. Marcus was different from his parents. David's son, but nothing like him. 2 tours in Afghanistan, Army Corps of Engineers. Came home and started a construction business. Quiet, observant, the kind of person who notices things others miss. He'd been distant from David for years. They'd fought when Marcus enlisted instead of going to business school. "You're wasting your potential," David had said. "I'm serving my country," Marcus replied. They barely spoke after that. But Marcus and I stayed close. He'd come by Sunday afternoons. We'd work in the garden, fix things around the house. He never asked for anything, never talked about money. While David and Susan circled like vultures, Marcus just showed up with his toolbox and fixed the leaking faucet, replaced the broken fence post, cleaned the gutters without being asked. 3 weeks before we found the box, Marcus said something odd. "Grandma, has Dad been asking you about your will lately?" "Why do you ask?" "Just something Mom mentioned. Said he's been stressed about finances." I dismissed it. David was always stressed about money, even with his 6-figure salary. "Champagne tastes on a beer budget," Robert used to say. But then I checked my email. 17 messages from David in the past month, all with attachments, estate planning documents, power of attorney forms, healthcare proxy designations. "Just in case, Mom," every subject line read. I hadn't opened any of them. Now I wondered why he was so insistent. The timestamps showed 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Who sends their mother legal documents in the middle of the night unless they're lying awake, planning something? The first real warning came during a routine doctor's visit. Dr. Harrison had been my physician for 20 years. He looked confused when I walked in. "Dorothy, I thought you canceled." "No, I have an appointment. It's on my calendar." He checked his computer, frowned. "Someone called yesterday, said you were switching doctors, going to a geriatric specialist." "I never called, and I don't need a geriatric specialist." Dr. Harrison's expression changed. He pulled his chair closer. "Dorothy, has anyone been pressuring you about your health? Your mental capacity?" The question hit like cold water. "Why would you ask that?" "Because someone called asking for your medical records, specifically asking about cognitive evaluations, memory tests, said they were from a law firm handling your affairs." "I don't have a law firm handling my affairs." "Who called?" "They said they were calling on behalf of your daughter, Susan Walsh." My hands started shaking. Dr. Harrison noticed. "Dorothy, I've seen this before. Elder abuse often starts with family members trying to establish incompetence, creating a paper trail." "My children wouldn't." "I'm not saying they would, but someone is asking questions they shouldn't be asking." He gave me a referral, not for a specialist, for an elder law attorney. "Just in case," he said. "And Dorothy, maybe don't mention this visit to anyone." I drove home in silence, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had already been set in motion. That afternoon, I noticed other things. My prescription bottles had been moved. The labels faced different directions than I always arranged them. My filing cabinet drawer wasn't completely closed. Though I'm meticulous about that, someone had been in my house, going through my things, looking for something. Which brings us back to that Sunday, October 5th. Marcus and I in the garden. The metal box was sealed with a combination lock. Marcus studied it, then looked at the house. "Grandma, do you have bolt cutters?" "In the garage." "Get them and grab your phone. Start recording." I recorded as Marcus cut the lock. His hands were steady, but I could see the tension in his jaw. Inside the box were documents, dozens of them. Marcus spread them on the ground, using his phone to photograph each one. The first folder said, "Commitment papers." Legal documents for involuntary psychiatric hold, already partially filled out, just missing a signature and date. The second folder, "Property transfer," deed transfer documents for my house, post-dated for November 20th. The third folder, "Insurance claims," forms for accelerated life insurance payout due to mental incompetence of beneficiary. But it was the fourth folder that made Marcus go pale. Inside were 3 vials of clear liquid, no labels, and a printed email exchange. The dosage we discussed. 3 applications should be sufficient for documentation. Confusion, memory loss, aggression if questioned. Temporary but convincing. The email address belonged to David's work account. Marcus looked up at me. "Grandma, they're planning to drug you, make you appear incompetent, then commit you." "On November 15th, I whispered. He nodded. 10 days from now." That's when we heard the car. David's BMW pulling into my driveway. Marcus grabbed my arm. "We need to leave, now." We shoved everything back in the box. Marcus carried it as we ran through the back door. My car keys were on the kitchen counter. We took my sedan, leaving through the alley behind my house as David's footsteps reached the front porch. We drove 3 blocks before my phone started ringing. "David." "Don't answer it." "But." "Grandma, he'll know something's wrong. We need time to figure this out." The phone rang again. Susan this time, then David again, then Susan, then a number I didn't recognize. Within 5 minutes, 17 missed calls. Marcus pulled into a parking garage downtown, 3rd floor, Parked in a corner spot. Why here? Security cameras, public place. They won't try anything here. He pulled out the documents again, started reading more carefully. Grandma, look at this. He showed me a medical form, pre-signed by a doctor I'd never heard of. Dr. Raymond Foster, geriatric psychiatrist. Diagnosis: moderate dementia with behavioral disturbances. Recommendation: immediate inpatient commitment for evaluation. Date of examination: November 10th. That's 5 days from now, an appointment I don't have, for an exam that hasn't happened, but it's already signed. Marcus Googled the doctor. No results. The address on the form belonged to a vacant office building that had been empty for 3 years. This is all fabricated, but once you're committed, who's going to believe you? My phone buzzed. A text from Susan. Mom, where are you? David's at your house. We're worried. Then another. Mom, please call us. We just want to make sure you're safe. And another. If you don't respond, we're calling the police. Marcus took my phone, turned it completely off. They're trying to establish a pattern. You disappearing, acting erratically. It feeds their narrative. What do we do? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his own phone. We call the actual police first. We get ahead of this before they twist the story. He dialed 911 and asked for the non-emergency line. He was calm, methodical, military precision in every word. Detective Maria Santos looked at the documents spread across her desk. She'd been recording our conversation for 40 minutes. This is elaborate, she said finally. This took months of planning. She held up the vials. We'll test these, but I suspect they're benzodiazepines. High dose. Makes someone appear confused, aggressive if they resist. Classic in elder abuse cases. You've seen this before? I asked. More than you'd think. Family members. Always about money. But this. She gestured at the fake medical forms. This is sophisticated. Whoever planned this understood the legal system, medical documentation, and exactly how to exploit both. She looked at Marcus. You did the right thing documenting everything. Without this evidence, it would be her word against theirs. And frankly, that's a battle elderly victims rarely win. What happens now? Marcus asked. We bring them in for questioning. But Mrs. Walsh, I need to ask, are you safe going home? I thought about my house. The locks they had keys to. The windows they knew how to open. The spare key hidden under the fake rock Susan gave me for Christmas. No, I admitted. I'm not. Detective Santos made a call. The department had a fund for vulnerable adults. They put me in a hotel under an alias, security on my door. That night, I sat on the bed watching the news. Nothing about my case, but Detective Santos called at 9 p.m. Dorothy, we brought your son and daughter in for questioning. And? They both had lawyers, expensive ones. They were ready for this. My stomach dropped. But here's the interesting thing. They're pointing fingers at each other. David says it was Susan's idea. Susan says David orchestrated everything. What about the drugs? The documents? David's fingerprints are on the vials. Susan's are on the commitment papers. They're both involved, but they're trying to save themselves. She paused. Dorothy, we also found something else. Your son has been accessing your financial accounts. Illegally. He's been monitoring your spending, your transfers. He knows exactly how much you have. I felt sick. How long? At least 8 months. Since right after he helped you set up online banking. He'd been so helpful, so patient, teaching me how to use the computer. He'd been planning this for almost a year. The next morning, my phone had 47 missed calls. I'd turned it back on at the detective's insistence because they were monitoring it now. The voicemail started playing one after another. Susan's voice first. Mom, this is insane. Marcus is putting ideas in your head. We love you. We're trying to help you. Then David. Mother, you need to come home. This is all a misunderstanding. Marcus has always been troubled. You know that. Then Jennifer, David's wife. Dorothy, please, think about what you're doing to this family, to your grandchildren. But it was the last message that broke me. Emma, Susan's 16-year-old daughter. Grandma? Mom says you're sick. That you're confused. I'm scared. Please come home. They were using my granddaughter. Marcus sat beside me as I listened. His jaw clenched. She doesn't know, I said. Emma doesn't know what they're doing. No, they're using her innocence as a weapon. Detective Santos called an hour later. We've made arrests. Both of them. Both. The evidence is overwhelming. Conspiracy to commit elder abuse, fraud, false imprisonment planning, attempted poisoning. Poisoning? The vials tested positive. Rohypnol mixed with ketamine, enough to make you completely incoherent, possibly cause permanent damage. I couldn't breathe. They weren't just going to make me appear incompetent. They were going to make me incompetent, permanently. My own children had obtained drugs specifically designed to destroy my mind. The dosage instructions in that email suddenly made horrible sense. 3 applications, enough to document a pattern of decline, enough to convince any judge that I needed to be locked away. And once I was committed, confused, and unable to advocate for myself, they would have had complete control over everything I owned, everything Robert and I had spent a lifetime building. It would have worked. If Marcus hadn't noticed the fresh soil disturbance, it would have worked perfectly. The trial was set for 6 months later, but the media got hold of the story first. Headlines everywhere. Children plot to drug elderly mother for inheritance. Elder abuse scheme exposed by veteran grandson. $2.4 million motive. Family betrayal rocks suburban community. Susan and David both bailed out. Different bondsmen. They weren't speaking to each other anymore. Each blamed the other in their separate legal filings. Each tried to negotiate a lesser sentence by offering testimony against their sibling. The family they'd claimed to protect was now shattered beyond repair, and they'd done it to themselves. I had to get a restraining order. They kept trying to approach me. Letters of apology arrived daily. Flowers showed up on my doorstep. David even sent a family photo album with a note, "Remember the good times." I threw it in the trash without opening it. There were no good times anymore. Every memory was poisoned now. Marcus moved in with me. Installed new locks on every door. Security cameras covering every angle of the property. A panic button connected directly to his phone. "I'm not leaving you alone," he said. "Not until this is over." But it wasn't just about physical safety anymore. The betrayal had broken something in me. Every memory felt tainted. Every happy Christmas, every birthday, every family vacation. Had they been calculating even then? Looking at me and seeing dollar signs instead of their mother? I kept asking myself the same question over and over. When did my children stop seeing me as the woman who raised them and start seeing me as an inheritance waiting to be collected? Was it when Robert died? Was it earlier? Had I missed signs for years, decades even? The therapist Detective Santos recommended said this kind of betrayal trauma takes years to heal. Some people never fully recover from it. David got 7 years, Susan got 5. The difference? David had orchestrated the medical fraud. Susan was the willing accomplice. They lost everything fighting the charges. Their homes went to pay legal fees. Their savings depleted within months. Their reputations destroyed in every newspaper and evening news broadcast. David's wife, Jennifer, filed for divorce before the verdict was even read. She took the kids and moved to her mother's house in Ohio. Said she couldn't believe she'd been married to someone capable of such cruelty. Susan's daughter, Emma, lives with her father now. She sent me one letter that I keep in my nightstand drawer. "I don't understand how Mom could do this to you. I'm sorry, Grandma." I wrote back immediately. "It's not your fault. I love you always." She's innocent in all of this, a child caught in the wreckage her mother created. I pray she grows up to be nothing like Susan. Marcus's construction business is thriving now. Turns out, being the grandson who saved his grandmother from her own children is the kind of story that builds trust with clients. But he doesn't talk about it, doesn't brag, doesn't use it for marketing. That's not who he is. We still garden together on Sundays. Last spring, tulips bloomed in the exact spot where we found that metal box. Beautiful red and yellow flowers growing from soil that once held evidence of betrayal. Last week, Marcus said something that stays with me. "Grandma, they chose greed over love. That's on them, not you." He's right, but sometimes, late at night, I still wonder, were there signs I missed? Moments when I could have helped them choose differently? Did I fail them somehow as a mother? I'll never have those answers. My husband Robert used to say, "People show you who they are. Believe them." My children showed me exactly who they are, and my grandson showed me who he is. 2 chose to destroy. 1 chose to protect. That's the difference between love and greed. Love builds. Greed buries. But sometimes, if you're lucky, someone who truly loves you will dig up the truth before it's too late. Elder abuse affects 1 in 10 Americans over 60. 90% of abusers are family members. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about someone in your life who might be vulnerable, you owe it to yourself and to them to stay informed. Subscribe to this channel right now, because the next story we share might be the one that saves someone you love. And if you choose not to subscribe, tell us why in the comments. We want to understand. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we need to watch most carefully.